So folks, by way of introduction, what we're going to focus on today, of course, is project and portfolio management. And it'll revolve around request projects and portfolios, as we'll see in a couple of minutes. And then how we put this together is kind of interesting. We've been working, some of you may know, we've been working and have an active product in market for many, many years called BrightWork. And it is on the SharePoint platform. And it's a template-based approach to project management. So what we did was we leaned on that experience. We looked into Microsoft 365, where there was SharePoint, but there was also Teams and other goodies, if you like, including the Power Platform. And we said, instead of building something in Microsoft 365 just on SharePoint, can we take all of what's in Microsoft 365 and use the best pieces to build a project and portfolio management system? So that's what we'll be looking at today. Now, over the many years, as it says there, the 27, which is why the hair is gray at this stage, we've learned a lot working with our customers. And one of the things we've learned is that organizations that try to put in way too much project management initially, suffer from a bit of overload, if you like. So what we advocate is a kind of a crawl, walk, run, start, evolve approach. And that can be different for different organizations, what it means. But in a generic sense, it would be put in a reasonable amount of project management to start with across all projects and give your senior management visibility into what's going on. Even if all projects aren't great, at least you'll know what project is doing well and not well. And then gradually evolve the project management over time. So in the demo, which I'm about to start, we'll show the project management solution on Microsoft 365, but we'll do it through the lens of Start Evolve, because I think you might find that interesting. All right, so let me exit the demo. I'll just turn off my webcam so we're not distracted. And now you should be seeing, and you are seeing indeed my screen. So if I were to give you an overview of the what, this diagram I think is very helpful. It's requests for new projects, the resulting projects from those requests, and then those projects grouped into portfolios and programs. Now, you don't have to start with the requests, but you have that option to do it. So it's a kind of a logical flow. And the request projects and portfolios are driven by templates that we ship out of the box that you can configure and change, of course, yourselves as well. If we were to kind of go down the next level of detail on the what, we could use the navigation on the left. So under the home link would be my work. So what do I have to do to help our projects? And then I would have dashboards. So dashboards would be, how are we doing across our projects? So my work is basically, what have I got to do? And the dashboards, how are we as a team doing? Requests then would be the request for new projects. So I can see my requests here. And we'll go into this in a bit more detail later, but it's the actual request for a project if you're doing it in that formal way. Projects, of course, would be the resulting projects. So I can see my projects, late projects, early projects, and so on. And then if I just click into one, you'll see an example of a project. And we'll go through this in a bit more detail, status and Gantt and my work and risks and issues. And then what we can do is, if we keep going down the navigation, just looking at some of it with this notion of a portfolio, and you can have one or more portfolios. And this Contoso portfolio has a number of programs in it. And this marketing program has a number of projects in it. And then I can click into the project and so on. So to summarize, I'll go back to this diagram here. You've got the option to have requests for new projects, the actual projects themselves, and those rolled into programs and portfolios, and all that driven by templates. So if you look down the bottom left, we can scoot into the templates area, which we'll cover in a bit of detail a little bit later. So requests, projects, portfolios, underpinned by templates, and they're kind of the essential elements of a classic project and portfolio management system. So as Michal said, if you have questions, do take note of them and pop them on the stack, and we'll be delighted to cover them. The more questions, the better. So if we're to go to the next level of detail in looking at this, I said we might look at it through the lens of start, evolve. So, and I mentioned that each organization might start in a different place. So your context is all different. So therefore your starting point will be different. So how do you judge the right starting point? Well, you know, if I go back to this diagram, which we would have seen in a slightly different form on a slide a couple of minutes ago, we have the start, evolve approach. But that's surrounded by the project management success strategy. So we have a simple but clear approach to work through with you on that. And our team, our customer success partners, will work with you and we'll come up with the project management success strategy. And that's something you can lean on and go back and update. So rather than being a haphazard thing, put in the software, turn the knobs, hope everything works, it's really about your project management success. And that strategy is executed in a start, evolve manner, would be our approach. So having said that, you know, your start depends on your context. Let me give you an example of a start. So I'll call out 3 items that you might do, and we'll show them in a minute. You might start with a project light. So mightn't be a massive amount of project management, but you could get a lot, if not all, projects up and running on that pretty quickly. So if you don't burden people with a massive amount of project management, you can get a lot of projects up in a fast manner. And that really is focusing a lot on your project managers to begin with. Second thing you might do in a start is focus on the team members on the projects and drive them to my work. From those projects, here's the work you've got to do. And then the third area is you might focus on the senior managers and give them a start with the portfolios and the programs. So let me kind of bring you through each of those 3. So for example, if I go into my projects and I look at this particular project, new consultant team onboarding, you can see that it has a charter, or it's like a statement of work. What is the project meant to achieve? And obviously you can configure this. There's then, if that's what it's meant to do, the project, the charter, then there's the status. Where is the project at? And then this can be updated and consulted at any point in time. So you have things like progress, start date, and comments, you know, and health costs, some of the classic indicators for a project, and then the ability to, of course, add comments to explain why they're in that particular state. The team roster, who's on the project, that gets automatically updated once you assign people work, or you can just add people to the project here in this manner. There's the actual schedule, or the work breakdown structure, or the set of tasks, which we'll cover a little bit later, and we'll kind of go into a bit more detail on it. And then perhaps you have my work. a place where you show the people on the project the work they have to do for this particular project. Maybe a place to store documents. And that's really about as much as you might have in a project light. If you're the project manager, you'd have access to the settings area where you have options to configure things and change things. And if you wished to push the project through an approval process, you know, from stage A to B to C, from initiate to plan, you know, you'd have an approvals area. But mainly what you probably want to do is, you know, have a light start to project management that's easy to consume. Because the alternative is you kind of come with a perfect project management process with every bell and whistle, and it's hard to get everybody to deploy it, and then your senior managers don't have great visibility on what's going on. But if you put in charter status, just those two, and maybe a work breakdown structure, set of tasks, even if it's a small number, with that you go a long way, because that will drive the second part, which is my work. So here's something that's visual and actionable. So this is my work across all the projects, or this is my work that's actually, you know, completed, or my work all. So if I go back to my work open and I open an issue here, then this, without having to go into the project, I get access to the issue that I'm asked to deal with, that I'm employed to deal with, and I can click in here and I have full access to it. If I'm responsible for a task on a project, so I can click this one here, and then I can say, you know what, I'm a good way through this. I do save. And when I go back to my work, you know, this one is now colored in progress, and if I mark it complete, then it will be gone off the open work list, and it'll be on the all work list. Okay, so that's the second thing you might want to do in the start, is give people easy access to all the work they've got to do and make it easy for them to update it. Make it, my work, visual and actionable. Third thing you might want to do in a start is maybe you want to you definitely want to give senior management access to the dashboards, but maybe you want to do it with the simple Power Apps dashboards to begin with. So in this scenario, you know, for example, I've got projects by health, by status, projects by sponsor, by project manager. You know, so for example, I can click here into this one, and it brings me to this particular chart exposed, and then I click on just the red ones, and I see the projects that are in danger. So I've got, without resorting to Microsoft Power BI, which I'll come on to in a second, there are a lot of dashboards here that will allow you to drill into good information. So a start might be, as I say, a light template for projects to begin with that absolutely has the basics. Get a lot of projects up and running on that. Doesn't mean they're all going to be in great shape, but at least you'll know where they are. You know, you'll have charter, status, and so on. My work for the team members and for the senior managers to give them some dashboards. And you get that out quickly, because nothing builds on success like success. And obviously to get momentum, you know, from your physics, you have to have some movement. So this allows you to move quickly and get momentum. And then the question then becomes, well, if that's your start, what might your first evolve be? And of course, the answer is, it depends on your context and your project management success strategy. So on your own or with our customer success partner, you'd go back to that, and we use a Microsoft PowerPoint deck for it, easy to communicate with. You go back to that strategy and you say, how much of it did we do? Has our context changed? What is it we should do next? And then you set up the next run at project management. You set up the evolve. In this case, it will be the first evolve. So again, let me give you an example of 3 things it might be. And again, I'll just summarize the 3 and then demo them. So you might decide to introduce a project standard, which is another template with more project management than Project Light. So it's Project Light plus a bunch of stuff that we'll see in a second. And the idea of the Project Light standard and structured is that they're generic project management approaches that can suit lots of projects. You know, it's a question of, do you have risks and issues or not, as we'll see in a minute, that kind of stuff. But then the second thing you might want to do in this evolve is you might want to look at some of your projects where there are very specific and different additional needs. So say, for example, you might want to introduce a new product introduction, which of course will require all the basics of project management, but there will be some extra requirements and different processes for that kind of project. And thirdly, in your evolve, you might want to mature the projects and portfolio management approach for your senior execs, and maybe introduce the Power BI dashboards. So let's go through those. So if I go back into my project and I look at this particular project, deploy marketing automation. Again, it's a standard approach to project management: initiate, plan, execute, and then close out your project. But if you look up top, we now have status reports added, which I'll cover in a second. We have actions and issues. So basically, we're adding more project management. Now, these are all, of course, out of the box, and you just decide which to show and which to hide in the different templates that you use. So essentially, you've got more project management here. Now, why wouldn't you have actions and issues and risks and costs and communications to begin with? It just might be too much for people, and you don't want them to be suffering from project management indigestion. So to look at some of these, so you've already seen status. So status, health comment, and if I turn this project to yellow and I just say, whoops, not doing so well. Now, obviously, it'd be something a little bit more, and then if I say the cost is red, and I just say large cost overrun. So basically, I'm updating the status, and I can do that at any particular point in time. In fact, it's a good thing to do, to come back to the project, look at the status, update it. It's good for the project manager to get into that headspace. Where are we? Now, the idea of the status report then is, and I can say we're a third way through the project status-wise. So these are the status. This is the status of the project. So I can click status report. I can do new status report. And what it's doing is it's capturing the status that I just updated, or the current status, dates, indicators, comments, all that out to the right. And then I can say, for which period is this ending? So like I'm out at the end of the week, so I'm saying it's really for the end of this week. Key accomplishments, obviously you'd put in something more intelligible there. Lots of significant changes, many. Upcoming focus, some. So you'd put something in there. So now, do you want to email this report to the sponsor? Yeah, and the sponsor will be named. You could say yes. Do you want to add additional people to send it to? Like I think Niall's been asking me about this, so I'll include Niall on it. And at this stage, am I ready to complete this report? And I say yes, and then it's completed. And this particular status report then is now on the stack. So if we look on top, this status report has been saved so that we have a list of all the status reports. That email there, that Bing you might have heard, was the status report coming into my email. and to whoever else I would send it to. So you get a sense here that there's more project management. I mean, other stuff that's in here would be Microsoft Teams integration. So you have the option as a project manager to create a channel by just pushing a button in settings. You know, it's already done, which is why it's great. I'll create a Teams channel, and then people will be able to access this same project from Microsoft Teams. So there I'm clicking in Microsoft Teams, which a lot of people like to hang out in, and I'm seeing the latest status and the latest status report and so on. Other things you'd notice here, you know, is you're using SharePoint to manage the documents. So you upload your documents, you single click on one of them, and you can edit, delete, check in, check out. So you still have access to all the power of SharePoint or SharePoint Online. So that's maybe one thing you do, is introduce that kind of a project. A second thing you might do in your Evolve, if I go back and I get to my projects this way. Oops, sorry, no, the second thing we want to do is we want to look at the new product introduction project. So I go back home, click my projects, and then I look at this other project, which is frozen desserts for South Africa. So what we're talking about here is a different kind of a project where there's a business case, then it goes to development of the product, then scale, then launch. So you get the sense of different items at play, and then therefore different things in the charter. So it's your standard project management with start, middle, and end, of course, risks and issues. In fact, if you see here, we've got issues, risks, costs, communications. So we've got more project management from the out-of-the-box stuff. And the idea here is that you're instantiating a particular type of project for a business process that you have. In this case, it happens to be product introduction, new product introduction. So if I look here at the Gantt, I said we'd have a closer look at this. We've got the green line, which is the today line. If I click the baseline, you know, so this shows me that I'm pretty much, the project is pretty much on track to the original baseline. It's pretty easy to change. So if I turn off the baseline and then I start changing some of this stuff, and then I can actually go in here and I can change more of it here. This is 10% and so on, and add resources. So it's pretty easy to kind of work with. Now, if I click my baseline, I see I've deviated from the original baseline or the original plan. So I can interact with the Gantt in that way. There's expand all, collapse all, you know, there's kind of a toolbar up here. I can also drag this splitter across, and then I've got a grid that I can play with and update. So, you know, the aforementioned Niall will make Niall responsible for this particular stage. And we do that on the grid. So there are kind of changes made on the fly. So we were saying there's three things you might do in this Evolve. You know, the first was introduce a project standard, which is more project management, maybe a new product introduction or a specific process. And the third thing you might want to do is maybe in this Evolve, you decide, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll out the Power BI attractive executive dashboards. Some of you folks may already have the Power BI licenses. So then, you know, you say, for, you know, these are, you know, all the projects managed by Anne, or all the projects that are not started, so I can see what's going on with them. Projects of a certain type and so on. And then I can click here and so on. I've got projects to there across money projects. If I want to see just a dashboard for one project, that's a project we looked at a couple of minutes ago. So there's the dashboard for it. Projects timeline, project tasks, you know, a view of all the work across all the projects. So, there's a work by type, project deliverables, cost issues, or by person, and so on. And then there are other dashboards like my work and project document dashboard. So that could be your second evolve. That could be your second evolve. Now, your third evolve, that was your first evolve, wasn't it? It was like your second twist. You did a start, consolidated, and then you evolved. And maybe you want to evolve again. So again, the question is, how do you figure what to evolve? Of course, it depends on your context, and you go back to that project management success strategy, and our customer success partner will be delighted to help you with that. See what's working, what's not working, what value you still want to extract as per your project management success strategy. So maybe your third twist of the wheel, which in this case is your second evolve, maybe there's three things you do. Maybe at this stage you introduce requests. So maybe you say, look, we have a lot of projects up and running, but from now on, any project that's considered needs to go through a request governance process. So that could be one. Maybe the second thing you want to do is go to more project and portfolio management, maybe resource utilization, we'll look at it in a second. And the third thing you might want to do is get into the templates area and build out different request types for different project types, and maybe build out other project types and templates for those. So looking at requests, if I click requests and I click close requests, and maybe I can find what I'm looking for, and if not, I just do a search and I click, so I find the original request for the frozen desserts project, that NPI, new product introduction one. So this is the request that led to the project. So you see here, there's a request form, the idea details. Again, you would configure this, of course, from our out-of-the-box ones. And here you have things like the description, the target customer, the need, the source of the idea, and so on, and any associated documents. So you essentially have a form to capture what it is required. Second tab then are the details, any details of that would govern the resulting project, So is it for this portfolio, this program, do we know who the project manager is? If you don't know them, you don't know them. But if you do, they can go into the request details and they'll be used to create the project. Then if there's an approval, we actually, in our recent release, we introduced 0 approvals. But in this case, you've got the request goes from draft to accepted, to reviewed, to approved. You can see that down here. And you can see that you have different people lined up to be approvers and reviewers, and different information that will be passed to them, and whether the stage from draft to accepted or accepted to reviewed is manually started by an approvals coordinator, or do you want it to automatically flow? You can kind of configure all that kind of stuff. And then there's the history of the actual request itself. Now, if you hadn't picked this up, there's obviously this request is a key part of the solution. And we have a request app. And that request app can be used by anybody in your organization with a free license, no cost. So they can request projects, and then they can come into your project and portfolio hopper, so to speak. So that could be the first thing you do in the second evolve. The second thing you might want to do is introduce more dashboards. You'd be getting requests from people. And maybe in this case, we're looking at resource utilization as an example. So if I click here, I see the folks that are within the scope. We'll talk about that in a second of this report, resource utilization report. And we can see that, this is June, July. And of course, I could make this 3 weeks and it's just June, or I could make it 13 weeks and it goes June, July, August, September, and so on. Now, the red obviously indicates that the person is over allocated. The gray is that they're in a safe zone, and the green is that they're on the margin. You know, they're allocated 100%. You certainly don't want to go any further. And sometimes people keep this data accurate, and sometimes they don't. But at least what you can do is you can start drilling into it and having a look at it and say, Alex is over allocated there in July, but I see what it is. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that because it's not a real over allocation because I know what's happening in that project. Or maybe I am worried about it and I do something about it, you know. And then I can go down a level and it goes to weeks. So, but I don't want to see 13 weeks. Maybe I just want to see 3 weeks. So we've got June 5th to 11th and so on. So it calls out the weeks, and I can see more detail here. And then I can actually go down and I can drill down to the days as well. And I could see for the next 2 weeks and just see the days and see what kind of loading there is and there isn't. And here, you know, on the right-hand side, I can just focus on one person. Down the bottom, I have the projects, so I can kind of click and link into those projects myself. And these, as I change the time frame and the scope, like for example, if I look at the filters, so is it all portfolios or just the Contoso one? That would change things. And is it all programs, or maybe I just want to look at the marketing one, and that will change the scope. So I can filter and change the scope of what I'm looking at, or just look across a number of projects and a number of people and so on. So got quite a lot of flexibility there. I also have the ability to, you know, go focus mode, go full screen on this, do different sorts and so on. I can also open this in Power BI. This is embedded in the app at the moment. If I open it in Power BI, you know, I get some interesting options like export to Microsoft PowerPoint and to PDF and so on. So I can do an export there. If you see in the top left, export to PowerPoint, embed as an image, embed live data, export to PDF, and other options there as well. I could also open this in Power BI desktop and do the configurations and make changes to it as well. So maybe that's something I want to do. And then lastly on our evolve, you know, we said maybe we would do requests in this evolve, introduce that bit of governance, maybe amp up the portfolio reporting with resource utilization. And then maybe we go into the templates area. Maybe that's the third thing we do. And maybe we set up different request templates to suit the different kind of requests we want. You know, so there you can kind of see the things you can configure here. You know, what form do you want to use to collect the data? What's the business process flow? And we saw initiate, plan, track, and business case, launch, and so on. So you can have different business process flows and configure who the approvers are, the reviewers. And if you don't know those, they can be changed, of course, as you're executing. And then different project templates. You know, so there's the demo template. And if you want to have approvals, maybe you want approvals, maybe you don't want approvals, and what type of, you know, what type of governance you want for this particular project. So that may be your third. So if I were to summarize then, it's requests, projects, and portfolios. And you can see there's, hopefully you can see there's quite a lot in the software. And then what you want to do is probably want to start evolve to suit the context you're in. And there were some examples I gave for the start and the first and the second evolve. I kind of gave maybe 3 things you might want to do in each as an example. It was a good way to kind of walk through the software and emphasize the start evolve approach. Now, of course, there's a very extensive knowledge base with everything from deployments to upgrades to getting started and so on. And in terms of assistance, and of course also in terms of assistance, we are very happy and would be privileged to accompany you on your journey, your start evolve journey. And we can use that as a kind of an on-the-job coaching, mentoring, and training, of course, as well. And the idea is that you get to control the project management success strategy, and that drives the efforts and our collaboration in any ways that we might help you. So there's the knowledge base, and then there's the services to accompany you on your journey to project management success and evolve success. So Michal, I am going to hand back to you at this stage, and maybe just to show folks that in this slide deck, there are extra slides when you download it, which I'm not going to go through now, because what they really do is they summarize a portion of the demo that we looked at, which wouldn't be a great use of your time. But I think what Michal's going to do is just maybe take a quick poll, if it's okay, to get your feedback, and then go into the Q&A.
Absolutely, Eamon. So we'll just run a very quick poll. Just at the start, we asked people, you know, why are you looking at project management this year? And I guess we're just kind of wonder, based off what you've seen today, does it look like BrightWork 365 might answer that why? So I'm just going to let this run for a little bit. Also, folks, we are here to answer any questions. So a couple of people have asked questions already, which we'll jump into in a minute. But if you do have any, you can ask them in the questions panel and go to webinar. So I'm just going to let this poll run for another couple of seconds. Thank you to everybody who has submitted already, and for everyone else, you might want to ask a question. So please ask that in the questions panel. Okay, let's close this out. Thank you very much. Everybody said one of the top three, which is perfect, which is what we want to see. Okay. So let's have a look. So the first question, Eamon, actually kind of speaks to the evolve part of your presentation. So Venetia wants to know, are the templates that we looked at, are they customizable?
Yeah. So let me go. The short answer is yes, but let me kind of give a more detailed answer. So I'm switching back to the software there. And you go into the templates area. So how it works is there are various forms we ship to get you started, and you saw lots of them there in the demo. And then you can take those and configure them and change them using Power Apps model driven. You can copy them, save as, and change them. And then you would bundle those, you know, forms into the request and the project template, and there's a whole bunch of kind of configurable items there. Now, our team would work with you because there are certain changes you make that are what are called merge. And if you make those changes, when we do an upgrade, they merge, no problem. And there are other changes you make on the Power Platform that don't merge. So you've got to remember what they are and kind of reapply them if you like. But our team would walk you through that. So if I use the following language, certain items are very configurable, Venetia, and then other items are more customizable, and you just want to be careful on the upgrade, and we would work with you on that. If that makes sense.
Nice. I'm conscious of time, folks, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask 1 or 2 questions now, and then I'm going to give you some contact details just for anybody that needs to jump off a little bit early. So that's how we're going to run this. So the next question is, yeah, Zara wants to know, does every user or assignee require a license? So maybe we could just talk a little bit about licensing in general with BrightWork 365.
Of course, yeah. I think the short answer to the question is yes. Now, I did mention an exception on the way through in that if you want people to make requests for new projects, they can use the app, and that it is licensed, but it's free. There's no cost. We did Zara work with in the prior, well, the other product we still have live. We had different license types. You know, like a project manager was more expensive because he or she might use it more, and a team member would be less, and so on. And it just got too complicated, and our customers said, "Oh, just do blended pricing." So I think our pricing is pretty, you know, it's pretty inexpensive, like especially when you start adding lots of users, like you're getting into kind of the price of a lunch or a cup of coffee, or coffee and a really nice sandwich for somebody once a month, you know. So we kind of worked around it that way. So that's the licensing question. And the licensing is published on the website with kind of terms and conditions and so on. They're freely available to understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something Adam will be able to help you out with too. Folks, as I said before, I'm just going to type in. So some of the questions here are going to be useful for everyone. Some of the questions might be very specific to your organization. If you have those kind of questions, it might be best to arrange a custom demo. So Adam is the first port of call for that. So I've just shared a link with him. For a link to book a quick chat with him in our calendar, or in his calendar, I should say. So I have that sent there now. So we're going to stay on. If you have to leave us now, that's absolutely fine. We're going to stay on and answer a couple of more questions that have come in, but I just want to kind of give people a chance to leave if they need to. Okay, so we've talked about templates and we've talked about licensing. There's 1 or 2 questions here, Eamon, just to talk about budgeting and project budgets in general.
Yeah.
Maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, in fact, I didn't show that. That's a good point. Let's drag that over there. So if I go back to the projects and I look at a project, so you have the option. You have the option to put in a kind of a cost budget place. So, for example, for this particular project, you know, you can put in an approved budget, and then you have various cost items on the project, and then a cost item can literally just be the cost, or you can even budget for those individual items. So you can imagine you have 10, 20, 40, 50 items, and then you know how much of the budget is assigned, and what are the variances and so on. So, and then the particular cost item or something you're spending money on can be assigned to somebody to monitor and manage. So if you think of this idea of an individual cost item, and that cost item is, did you spend, up here in the top, did you spend money on it or not? And how much did you spend? And how much do you think you're going to spend? And then was there or was there not a budget associated with that particular cost? And then those individual items will roll up into a summary of cost and budget for the actual project itself, and you can assign an overall budget to the project and compare against that. And then there are there are dashboards, cost and budget, project program and portfolio dashboards, where they roll up and can be seen as well, if that helps.
Excellent. This question came in early, so we might have already shown that, but we had a question. Is there a dashboard for requests? We're actually looking at it, aren't we? Yeah.
Yes, there is actually. In fact, the first one. So there is indeed a dashboard for requests. Yep.
Yeah.
And again, kind of draft for approved by requester, by project manager, by type, by portfolio, by program. Ones for customer success, and you can drill down into them and so on. Yep.
Similarly, can we take a quick look at what the Teams integration looks like again?
Absolutely, of course we can. So if I go home, and I just kind of click on my projects, and I click on this particular project. So the front page of the project is the charter. It's kind of the key information, like, what's the project for, who's the project manager, is it part of a program or a portfolio, and what Teams channel, if there is one. So is there a Teams channel? So this would be a way of coming into the app on a browser. And again, as I say, that you just literally click that button and it sets up the team channel for you. So, and what it does is it kind of knows that the program that this is associated with has a team, a Microsoft Teams team, and then it creates a new channel in that team. Now, there is actually, in fact, in this release we have coming this week, there is an option then, if you don't want to use the default, to specify the team that you want the channel created in. So that's from a project manager point of view. Do I want Teams integration? And if I just click create Teams channel, one's automatically created for me. So then, from a team member point of view, when I come across to the actual team itself, you've got your classic, posts and conversations and a place to files and so on, and then the charter. So when you create that, you click that button in the app to create a Teams channel, it actually embeds the project in that team channel. So if someone elects to stay in Teams more, as a lot of us do, then in that particular team, there's a channel for each of the projects, and you can get access, to the project there from that particular channel. Okay, hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah. Okay. So we're down to the last one or two, Eamon. Thomas said it's a great tool and a presentation. A current problem that he's trying to solve right now is earned value management. Is it something that we could help with?
Thomas, we don't have earned value included in the software yet. So in this release, we wouldn't. It's on the roadmap, but in this release, we wouldn't be able to help you with that.
Hopefully, there's
lots of other stuff, but not that. Yeah,
loads of other great things in there. And similarly, this is something that I'm not familiar with, Eamon, but Zara wanted to know: can we do bubble diagrams? Which is not something.
Good question. Yeah, it's a good question. So if I give that in a two-parter, I believe we maybe need someone to validate this for me. The first part of the answer I'm confident in. The second part I think is right, but I'm not 100% sure. But if it is something of interest, Zara, you could you could follow up with Adam, and we'd find out for sure for you. Or maybe Michal, you could ask Adam to contact Zara with the answer to this question.
Sure.
So in the Microsoft Power BI out of the box many reports that we ship, we don't ship bubble charts, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, it's something we'd like to do. We haven't just got around to it yet. So that's the first part. Now, you can open these in Power BI, and you can go into Power BI desktop where you create the reports. I'd be pretty sure, let's ask a question here. Does Power BI include bubble charts? Yeah, so there's Power BI bubble charts. So we don't have them out of the box. We have the data set, of course. So we could certainly, and we would be very happy to work with you if we didn't have it in the product soon enough to create the bubble charts that you mentioned as part of a project customization with you. Yeah.
Nice, and I guess that's the beauty of evolving your project management.
Well, I think, yeah, it is, Michal. I think really what it does is it shows the power of the platform. In fact, something I didn't even talk about today. I'm just looking at my notes here. Did I forget it, or no, I think I left it out. Because we're built on the Power Platform, you have access to an amazing amount of stuff. For example, Power Automate and the workflows. And I think last time I looked, there was over 800 different connectors to solutions like SAP and so on. So that's deliberately why we chose the Microsoft 365 and the Power Platform. It's because it's such a rich platform and it's so extensible.
Excellent. Well, I think we're just short of the hour, but that's pretty good timing and a pretty good place to leave it there. A lovely note. Thank you, folks, for joining us today. I really, really hope that you found today useful and that you saw something that you liked. We've showed you a lot today, so maybe you need some time to think about it. Maybe you need to think about it and watch back some of the recording that we're going to send to you. Keep an eye out for that tomorrow. Otherwise, I also want to thank Eamon for a great presentation and for taking the time to answer our questions. So thank you very much, Eamon.
My pleasure. And to the folks who stayed to the bitter end, I hope you found this helpful.
Absolutely. So hopefully we'll talk to you all very soon. Have a lovely rest of your day wherever you are. Chat to you soon.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Michal. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.